The Rugby World Cup semi-finals are all set to take place this weekend, and it's an all Southern Hemisphere affair. With me to preview the matches is IBTimes sports editor Nick Howson. Looking at Australia against Argentina, two Southern Hemisphere sides again. Argentina have been dazzling so far this tournament, and they've really put Ireland to the sword. Against Australia, a team who were perhaps impressive before, but nearly blew it against Scotland in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that the whole Craig Joubert furore has sort of actually really overshadowed what was a terrific match, and also B, really exposed an Australian team who I think going into the quarterfinal stage were probably the marginal favourites for the tournament after what they did against Wales. So that is quite an interesting additional factor. It's sort of been overlooked, Australia's performance. Probably a good thing for them because it was a little bit shaky. They were going out with 2 minutes to go and they got a tad fortunate. World Rugby have obviously said to us that the decision was incorrect. So they got more than a little bit fortunate there. This is obviously an opportunity to make amends against an Argentina team, as you said, who blew away Ireland. I think the most impressive thing about that was they did it against a real proper defence. It's all good and well doing in the pool stage and rattling off tries when teams are either tired or, as a lot of the tier 2 sides they're actually looking at other matches that they wanted to win later in the pool against sort of their rivals in the pool stage. So they weren't necessarily taking those games seriously, is probably the wrong word, but they weren't committing all their resource to it. So there's one thing doing that, there's another thing doing it in a quarter-final against a team like Ireland, really good defensively. And a team that Australia certainly would have looked at as a good barometer to how they might get on against them, and they excelled. They had a second wind in that second half, and it looked like they might go under. It's going to be a fascinating game. One thing I would say is that Australia almost lost that game against Scotland, and yet they still scored 5 tries. Yes, okay, their nerve got to them. They lost their nerve a little bit at the end, and if they can keep their nerve, I guess, in the latter stages against Argentina, I would expect them to prevail. They've got enough as they show, they've got enough attacking intent. And let's not also forget Bernard Foley with the boot had bar the last-minute penalty, had a really poor day. Is he going to have as bad a day again in the semi-final? I'm not so sure. So I would expect Australia to go through here, but I think it can be a really exciting game. Hopefully the conditions are good, and it should be the real cracker of the 2 semi-finals.
Well, for all our coverage of the Rugby World Cup, go to our website, ibtimes.co.uk.